Hey everyone, welcome to a track walkthrough for a song from our new album. The song is called A Layer Where You Are Nothing, and it's from our Fix Your Hearts album out on November the 7th. There is a pre-order link below. As is always the case with Jilk songs, you can see here the title does not match the title that's on the CD case. Improv 2 Club Edit VIP version, as you can probably tell, this is sort of many save as versions down the line. It's called Improv because it started with an improv here, this channel here, EP, electric piano. Let's just hear a bit of that. So yeah, this started out just as an improvisation on a electric piano instrument. That instrument actually is, shout out to Thomas Ragsdale, who is Sulkrooms, for recommending Labs to me. Labs do a bunch of free instruments, so go and sort of check that out, and you can kind of download their sort of like operating system that appears as a plugin, and you can get various packs. So what we're using here is the Vintage Keys, probably the 73 preset. You can see here some frozen strings and some scary strings. They are also all over the album, but yeah, the sort of conceit for this album was rooted in kind of 60s and 70s French pop music, and how like more modern acts like Air, God, I didn't even call Air a modern act anymore, would you? But how like acts like Air and stuff kind of like reinterpreted that kind of 60s 70s sound. So we wanted to start a lot of the songs just jamming on an electric piano in a kind of sort of jazzy way, and that's what this was. It was a first take, it was a sort of straight run, which is why the chord progression kind of moves in quite weird ways, because I'm literally just making it up, and it actually falls into a different key at one point. But in that kind of like first take is best take way, I really like that. And this bit here really, oh no, not this bit. This bit really reminds me of Boards of Canada. There are some really good track breakdowns of Boards of Canada. I actually can't remember the name of the YouTube channel. I'm really sorry, but it's a woman sat at a piano, and she often does sort of like electronic releases or classic sort of 90s 2000s IDM releases. So like Aphex Twin. I think she even does an Autechre album. But she's like an incredible kind of pianist, and she just breaks down their chord progressions and stuff. And the Boards of Canada one is really interesting. I think she goes through Music Has the Right to Children, and they are quite good at making odd choices within keys, but also then changing keys mid chord sequence, so it sounds really odd. And I think that's part of where their kind of like odd, uncanny sound comes from. The other sort of significant thing probably to mention about this track is you can see here there's a master channel and there's a master 2 auxiliary. So initially this was just going to be like an intro to the album, like a minute long, and we had this sort of chain of effects on the master channel. So this electric piano sound, you know, I wanted it to sound kind of like a bit rough and a bit old, and that was part of that thinking. But as the track developed, I realised that I didn't want everything running through that effects chain, and so what you end up with is the main master or the main auxiliary, and then a master 2 auxiliary, and half the track is running through this master 2 auxiliary. You can see here the input for that is Boss 23, 24. And then along the bottom here, you'll see a number of the tracks are going into 23, 24. So yeah, like roughly, I don't know, it's actually more like a third of it. But yeah, there's a lot of weird routing on this actually. So that explains that. Other sounds, we've got some sounds that Kag's captured here. So rainforest from a Vietnamese national park. And then these effects here are captured from YouTube, which is significant. I'll come back to that. And it's someone actually changing the tape on a reel-to-reel machine. And we sort of chopped that into bits and got a kind of tape hiss effect out of it. But I love it. This is sort of one of the reasons that I really like the song, because it's got all this like background texture in it. And it's really subtle, but it kind of sounds like you're outdoors. And we put a couple of plugins on that. We've got an EFX Fragments thing running, which gives it these little artifacts. So it's called Impulse Reactor, and it every now and again just sends out this like little burst of sort of sound. You can see that going there. And then, yeah, the other main element are these strings. So these are actually synth strings, again, from Labs. So that's a cello, but what I like about it is that we've obviously put effects on it and stuff to make it sound a little bit almost like a bowed guitar, kind of Sigur Rós style. Just some reverb there, and we've double tracked it for a bit of heft. And we've got that running into this auxiliary here, just so we've got this EQ on everything. And then that auxiliary is running into our Master 2 here, so it's sort of giving the electric piano and the strings and all those weird tape effects that kind of sense of cohesion, that kind of old like 70s production sort of feel. So I wanted to play that bit because on this effects channel here, so that was the reel-to-reel tape, but it was recorded off YouTube, and what that sound is an advert kicking in. I can't remember, I think it's for chocolate or something, I can't remember what the advert is though. But I kind of liked it, it was a real happy accident, and so we sort of left it in. And I figured it's short enough that no one's going to be like, you sampled our advert. And basically the track was originally intended to stop there at like 2 minutes 10 or whatever, just be like an intro, and it would go straight into the track that's on the album, Bomb Scare Birth. But I can't remember why, but I think I just was having a lot of fun thinking about how it could be developed. And we isolated a section of these strings onto this track. Which is like a big swell. And then we just started to repeat that swell. You can actually hear a little bit of the electric piano in there as well. And yeah, just started to build it up from there, really. These electric piano, this improvisation, we sort of chopped it into a slightly more kind of coherent chord progression. Obviously having that swell moving along with the strings and the electric piano swell. that ding, ding, ding. I always think that's a really sort of jilk thing to do, is have a chord and then have it sort of glitch. Do that a lot. Fairly basic percussion, just a kick, a shaker, hats. There are some effects going on with those. We've got any FX fragments running here on the hats, and it just gives it a bit of movement and a bit of texture. And then we've just EQ'd our kick a little bit here, just took out all of that top end. Taken this little dip here, will have just taken a bit of the mod out. What I like about the kick is that it sounds like an old drum machine. It sounds like kind of rubbish, like if it was a dance floor track or like, I don't know, something that you're going to DJ with or whatever. You'd maybe want to make the kick a bit more oomph. And then we sort of squashed it with this grey compressor, which I never use. And I think I probably just was looking for a slightly new sound. But yeah, you can hear that by itself. So the kick would have come from the synth 808 that's in Pro Tools that we use quite a lot. And yeah, like the sort of those analog drum machines, I think kind of does sound a bit kind of rubbish, but that's sort of what we wanted. So what EFX Fragments is doing on those hats is quite subtle. But if you're wearing headphones, you'll hear it panned quite far left and right. And then, yeah, we've got the shaker coming in as well. So this is like a massive kind of like nod to, I guess, like, you know, Donna Summer, I Feel Love, and, you know, Giorgio, and that kind of like production. A bit of Minnie Riperton as well on this song. That ARP is the Korg Minilog XD, I think. And what's kind of cool about it is that we sort of tend not to MIDI sync things like that. We just sort of match the BPM and play them, and kind of hope for the best. But I think it gives it quite a loose feel, because it falls out of time basically. But and so you have to, like, every couple of bars, like, repress the chord, and I think that kind of forces you into like changing the chord in interesting ways and giving it like a bit of movement. And you can hear that we're playing with a filter as we're recording that. There's an EFX Fragments thing on the Crystal Tree, but I think we are automating when that comes in. Yeah. So if you see from here, it's going to start to peak. Yeah, I really like that element of it. It kind of it came relatively late, and it really started to like focus the track for me, like what kind of thing it was going to be. And this whole second half with the drums and everything becoming a bit more focused, it really defined that. And it sounds kind of cheesy. It's really disco, but I really like it. So earlier I said there are synth strings, but here there are real strings. This is Kags playing. She came up with that kind of motif, that kind of da-da, which sort of becomes, again, part of the hook. Yeah, really good. and we kind of have an acoustic guitar and some brass. The acoustic guitar is kind of just matching that brass. Sorry, matching those strings. But the other thing to notice here is this brass sample. So this is actually sampled from a classical piece of music, and I can't remember what it is, but it's there's an artist called Dientel who was one half of the Postal Service with the guy from Death Cab for Cutie, and he has a really, really good album before the Postal Service, which I cannot remember the name of now for the life of me, but it's got an ambulance on the front. You spell Dientel, Dntel. Really, really good. It might be Don't Tell, but I don't know. His strings a lot of the time are like ripped from vinyl that he's bought in charity shops, and he kind of has to knock it into key, or not, pitch it so it's right, and then use sort of like delay and reverb in kind of like quite creative ways. And so we were kind of doing a little bit of that with this. So it all kicks in, and then what I like about this sampled brass is that it gives it this like weird movement and actually becomes quite central to the melody. And then here we have, these are synth instruments as well. So that's again through labs, that's a synth trumpet, just kind of matching that kind of melodic motif. And then this is like a weird string sound. I think it's probably the scary strings. But yeah, these three elements all kind of combine for me to make quite an interesting thing. So this Audio 9, that's ultra processed acoustic guitar. The reason this is called Gosh is because I recorded it on my phone. So I sat and listened to the track and had my phone recording just the room and played acoustic guitar. But whenever I save stuff, I just mash the keypad and it comes up with a random word like gosh. It's gross, isn't it? Bloody hell. So yeah, you can probably hear that. Quite a clean acoustic guitar sound considering that's a phone microphone. And then you get that kind of like insecty sort of waspy processing of that acoustic guitar there. Gives it a nice texture. Hand claps, absolutely classic disco. I think that's why I liked this being a bit cheesy and a bit like, I don't feel like we would normally make a track like this. And so if we were going to do it, I wanted to go all in. And so, yeah, pretty like basic drums, hand claps. There are some vocal samples here. So yeah, a couple of things going on there. That bass is just a sine tone chopped into rhythm. So again, we probably would have played it in a kind of improvised way and then like chopped it into that rhythm. These vocals are, so not on this track, but on two other tracks on the album, there are vocals from Claire, who is fluent in French, and she translated our lyrics into French, and we kind of worked together on that. But she sent me spoken translations of the lyrics as a test. We were just kind of working out how it would sound and stuff. And I thought, oh, this would be cool if there was like a vocal chop in it. So I just chucked in one of her spoken translations as a kind of like, like, oh, I'll just put this in to see how it sounds, and then maybe we'll replace it with something else. But it worked so well that there was kind of no need to replace it. And I like that it kind of foreshadows that later on in the album there's going to be some sort of French lyrics and singing. This is one of my favourite things to do in Jilg, is to have a percussion track and then to record that percussion track onto another track with an effects unit happening on it, and so you get this kind of and all we're doing is running through presets in the FX fragments, just changing them every now and again, getting loads of these different moments. Really, really quick way to kind of give your track some like interesting movement and texture. And then that track will run by itself sometimes, just into this breakdown. Where are those? Oh, 120 Disco Conga, again sampled from YouTube. Again, I would never normally have this kind of like such a straightforward, fairly cheesy conga loop going in a track. But you know, sometimes if it works, it works. You're going to do it wrong, do it right. That moment there where it kind of, so this is the like final bit of the dance track, and you can see that the bass changes and kind of announces this sort of climax. But my favourite bit is there's this breakdown and then it reverses back into that kind of 2-note string motif, and these little claps do something so wicked. I love it. It just feels really cheeky for some reason. And it doesn't even finish its where it should. It sort of chops off because of the preset adding in this element of glitch. But I like it. Little moments like that sort of start to really stick with you, because obviously as you're writing and mixing a track, you hear it over and over and over again. So yeah, this bass line just starts to rise. And then we kind of go into like a repeat of the intro, but the kind of Boards of Canada motif bit first. And then the kind of significant difference is that we bring in Kags' strings, just to kind of buff out that moment. And this is where that kind of like two master auxiliary thing kind of comes in, because the Boards of Canada electric piano is going through this chain here, and Kags' strings are going through this chain here, which is much cleaner, and doesn't sound as like purposefully degraded and old. And I really like that moment of clarity as the strings fade in, and it's happening subtly throughout the track, because you know only like a third of it is going through this secondary master aux. So you can hear Kags' strings fade in here. And then we just have the Vietnamese National Park. So yeah, that's that. I didn't really go too much into detail about plugins and stuff. I just wanted to give like a general overview of what's happening in the song and the reasons that we kind of made the decision, and give you some of the production techniques. But if you've got any questions, drop them in the comments below. The album is available for pre-order. Yeah. Thanks for watching, and we'll do another one or another two of these videos Maybe when the album's out, maybe before, we'll see. But yeah, thanks for watching. Cheers. Bye.